Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of this tutorial on ProPresenter. Real quick before we get started, just wanted to say up front that this is something that applies to CG2, not specifically CG1. Actually, it applies to your confidence monitor. So if your confidence monitor is coming from CG2, these will be changes you're making to your CG2. If your confidence monitor comes from CG1, which I know is the case at one of our campuses, this is something that applies to CG1. That's something I should have said up front. I apologize for missing that in the first video, but now that you know, let's dive back in. As you can see, I have my clocks still up here. We're just going to leave these here for now. We'll come back to it. So first, let's go up to ProPresenter into Preferences. It brings up this screen. We're going to change it to Display, and then we're going to go to Configure Stage Display. Now, hopefully, your stage display won't look like this when you load in. This is the default setting for ProPresenter. This is not something we use at any of our campuses. I think every campus has modified this already, or it was modified before it was given to you. However, in this case, it says default, so what we're going to do is we're going to rename it LifePoint Welcome, because this is going to be the screen we use for the welcome clock. Now we don't need slide notes, so we can uncheck that. We don't need next slide notes. We can uncheck that. We're going to make the text size, because I know how big our screens are here, to 100, and we're going to change the color on next slide to orange. I know I went through that fast. If you need to, just rewind this part of the video for reference. We don't need chord charts. We don't need the video countdown. We do want the clock, and we're going to change the color of the clock to yellow. We also want the welcome clock, and we're going to change that color to, no, we're going to leave that color to white. We want service clock, and we're going to change that color to green. And we don't need the message showing either. So now we've got these different random elements, service clock, clock, and welcome. Now we need to get it all laid out correctly. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring the time clock over here on the right side. And then we're going to bring the welcome clock over here on the left side. And the service clock we're going to leave right in the middle. Slide that over like that. And then we're going to take the next slide and we're going to move it down to the bottom. And then we're going to stretch it out. And the reason why we're doing this is depending on how far your campus is from where the confidence monitor to where the worship team can see it, it may be a very far run, and we want to make sure this lets us make the text a little larger. In fact, let me just demonstrate here. Let's make it 120, for example. So let's go back to 100. Just for an example, just want to show you that that's why we kind of stretch it out this way, because it makes it bigger and easier to read. Then we're going to grab our clocks, and I'm going to do the same thing with my clocks. I'm going to take them and I'm going to just stretch them out, which will by default increase their size. Do it with the clock. And let's recenter service kind of in between the two. Or really what we can do is we'll just do this. All right, so that takes care of our welcome. Now we're going to add another, we're going to duplicate this. Whoop, and we're going to rename this one LifePoint Worship or point-to-point worship. Doesn't matter. We're going to uncheck the welcome clock, and we're going to check the local worship clock. And then we're just going to click this and drag it over here like so. And then finally, this is optional, I think, if you're at a receiving campus, but just to keep everything in sync, I'm going to duplicate this one more time, and it's going to be the LifePoint message slide. And just like last time, we're going to uncheck local worship, and we're going to check on message. Same thing, going to go up here. And that's how, and so now as you can see, under stage display, I have presets. I've got a welcome preset, a worship preset, and a message preset. And so if I come down here, and I'm just going to, let's see, let's start my welcome clock, let's start my service clock, let's start my message, local worship clock, and let's see, let's count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're going to fire the message clock now. And so here, let's display the welcome. And so as you can see, it matches the welcome clock. If I go to the worship, this matches the local worship clock. And the message matches the message clock. Service clock is the same in all of them. And real time is real time in all of them. So that's going to wrap up this tutorial. We will pick it up in the next tutorial where I go over what to do. Now that you have all this back end set up, what are we going to do with it? So we'll talk about that next time. Foodie out.